All right, hello and welcome everybody to Online Office Hours with the Smithsonian Learning Lab. My name is Tess Porter and I'm a digital content producer and educator here at the Smithsonian Center for Learning and Digital Access in Washington, D.C. We're the office behind the Smithsonian Learning Lab. I have a few slides to help us get started today. I'm going to pull them up now. Here we are. So every Tuesday during the school year, we hold office hours just like this one. To keep updated on our schedule and find links to future office hours, go to the URL on the screen, learninglab.si.edu/about/events. You can also find our schedule on the Learning Lab's homepage itself. I'll show you where to find that later today. I'll begin our walkthrough of the lab and our office hours with a quick introduction to the Smithsonian Learning Lab and how it works. So there's no real set agenda for today. Really, I'm just here to answer your questions. So if you have any questions about particular images or videos or any other type of resource to support a topic or maybe an activity that you're building, or if you'd like an orientation or a step-by-step walkthrough of the Learning Lab or perhaps a particular feature that you're struggling with, or any other type of question, I want to hear them. So to ask questions, look for the chat box. It'll either be on the right-hand side of the video or underneath the video, depending on what device you're watching this on and the size of your window. You can ask questions at any time using this chat box, and I'll answer it here live on the screen. I'll be screen sharing in a bit too, so I can walk you through how exactly to find, say, a resource on the lab or how that tool actually works. So yes, please feel free to ask questions at any time. If you are tweeting about your Learning Lab experiences or your teaching experiences, we would love to hear from you. Our Twitter handle is Smithsonian Lab. You can tag us, mention us, follow us. We often post new and great ideas from teachers across the country, new things that are happening with the Learning Lab, like updates or new features or collections that might be especially relevant to this particular period of the school year. It's a great place to keep in touch with us at the Learning Lab and hear about the most recent news. So find us at Smithsonian Lab. So to begin today, while I wait for questions to come in, I thought I'd give you a walkthrough of the Learning Lab, kind of the main ideas it's centered around and the basics of how it works. This is a screenshot of the Learning Lab's homepage, and I'm going to navigate there now. If you'd like to follow along with me, the URL for the Learning Lab, I'm putting it up on the screen. It's learninglab.si.edu. I'm going to go navigate there now, so bear with me for a moment. All right, so this is the Learning Lab's homepage. The Learning Lab is focused around four main ideas: discover, create, share, and learn. It is a free website that can be used by anyone, whether you're a teacher, a student, a museum educator, or any other type of user, and you don't need an account to use the Learning Lab. You can find resources and collections, which I'll explain more about in a moment, without an account. However, if you do create an account, you can start building your own collections, and that'll make sense in a little bit. Let me take the URL down. All right, so what does discover mean? On the Smithsonian Learning Lab, you can find over 3 million resources from across the Smithsonian. The word resource covers a lot of different things. It includes images of artifacts and artwork that you'll find within a museum's walls, but it also includes video and audio recording, texts, both primary texts, but also articles and blog posts, websites, lesson plans, and a whole lot more. So those all fall under the category of resources. And these are the building blocks of what we call collections, which are aggregations of resources for learning. They can take a few different forms, whether they are kind of aggregations of resources around a topic. So say I wanted to pull together resources on the Apollo 11 launch. I could build a collection about that. There are collections designed for teachers that include strategies on how to use resources in the classroom. And there are also student activities, which are designed for students to use firsthand. Not only can you find collections that others have created on the Learning Lab, but you can also create your own. There are multiple tools on the site to help you create and adapt collections to suit your needs. So you can copy a collection that someone else has created and adapt it however you like. So bringing in your own resources, taking out some that don't work as well for what you're planning. You can use interactive tools to build quiz questions, add hotspots and other types of interactivity. And you can upload resources from outside the Smithsonian. So we have a lot, but we don't have everything. So you can bring in, say, a graphic organizer you use often to teach a topic, a photograph that you or your student took. It's completely flexible and all up to you. And then you can share what you created with others and kind of build on the Learning Lab's kind of extensive community of learning. And finally, there are opportunities to learn more. So whether that's through our blog, where we often feature strategies and ideas and experiences from teachers and educators across the country. We have a newsletter that goes out every week or so with some of our newest and best collections, ideas for teaching particular topics through the year. And then here under Learn, as I mentioned earlier, this is where we also post our schedule of office hours that'll take place throughout the year. So again, office hours like this one take place every Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. But we also have other webinars that take place during the year on a diverse range of subjects. So you can find out more about them here. Again, I can click on Learn to come to this section, then scroll down to Professional Development and Events. Here, I can see some of the upcoming events, like an upcoming webinar on digital engagement for Learning Lab, how to make learning visible with digital museum resources, and a special one on constructing curriculum with the National Art Education Association. So again, this is a great way to not only keep up to date on new office hours, but also other events and webinars we're holding throughout the year. So again, there is no set agenda for today. I am here to answer your questions, and whatever they are, I want to hear them. You can enter your questions using the chat box, and again, this will either appear to the right-hand side of the video or underneath it, depending on the device you're watching this on or the size of your screen. And once you ask your question, I'll be able to see it on my end, and I can walk through it live on the lab. So again, whether you're looking for a particular resource, you want to learn more about using another tool or any other type of question, you can enter it here. While I wait for questions to come in, I'm going to go off camera for a bit, but I will still be here and still checking the chat box. So please submit your questions when you have them. I'll be back soon. All right, I am back. I see we have a question from Sierra. I'm going to pop it up on the screen. Sierra is asking, under sorting activities, can you see the source of resources or images? You can, and I'll show you how to find that. So let me navigate back to the Learning Lab. One moment. And I'm going to make sure I'm logged into my account. So I am. When you create our first, again, the Learning Lab is located at learninglab.si.edu. I'm going to pop that URL back on the screen real quick. All right, so when you create a sorting activity as the creator of a collection, you have the option of whether or not to hide that metadata, which includes the source of resources or images. I'll first show you how to control that. So I'm going to go, what's a good way to start this? I think I'm going to start by creating just a draft collection about Apollo 11. So I'm going to start a search for Apollo 11, and I'm using the search bar in the upper left. That'll be on every page of the Learning Lab to search for some resources related to my topic. And I am going to start a new collection with this. If you aren't familiar with the Learning Lab, I just want to give a quick walkthrough of what you're seeing here. So this is a search result page. It'll first show you resources related to your search term, but if you'd like to see collections, you can click on this tab here. And then each image here is a resource that I can click on to view in detail. I am going to start a new collection from one of these resources. This one looks interesting. So I'm going to click this button in the upper right, Add to Collection. And I'm going to create a new one just to demonstrate this. So sorting activities. And Sierra, if I'm going off base of your question at any time, feel free to send another message in the chat. I'm watching it while I do this too. All right. So I've made my new collection, and I'm going to find it by using the sun in the upper hand or right hand side of the screen. And I'm going to click on collections here. This page first shows me all of my published collections, and I have quite a few, so it takes a bit to load. But to find the new one I created, I'm clicking on the My Unpublished Collections tab. And here is my new collection. And to create a sorting activity in here, I'm going to go into edit mode because it's a change I want to make. And I'm in edit mode, and I know I am because there is a green edit bar at the top of the screen. So a sorting activity is something we call a standalone resource. It'll appear as its own tile here in the lab. So to create one, I'm going to click this Add Resource button. And I'm going to click on Add Standalone Feature. There are a few options here. I'm going to click on the one titled Sorting Activity. I have two choices. I can click whether I want my sorting activity to ask students or any other type of learner to sort resources into categories. You define what those categories are. There can be as many or few as you'd like. Or I can create a linear sorting activity, which asks a learner to sort resources along a line, the endpoints of which I define. So big to small, old to new, whatever I want. So I'm going to do categories, and I'm going to click next. So here is what I was trying to get to show you. So these are the fields I need to fill out to create my sorting activity. I've got my title, my description, an option whether or not to require correct responses from students, and allowing students to see resource information. So that is the part that relates to your question, Sierra. If I click Show Data, students or any other user that accesses my sorting activity will be able to see the metadata, including the source of the resource. I can also hide that, which is an interesting option if you want students maybe to use some prior knowledge about the resources in the activity, use their analytical skills to try guess kind of what these resources are, where they're from, whatever you like. So here I'm going to keep show data, and I'm going to create 2 categories: paintings, artifacts. Oops, and I forgot to add my description. I can change this later, so I'm going to write to be decided right now. All right, I can add resources to my sorting activity here. And for the purposes of this, I'm going to add some things that aren't related to Apollo 11, just so I can show you what it looks like. Click Add, and my sorting activity is finished. So here I'm going to exit out of edit mode and look at my sorting activity to see what it would look like to a regular user. So I'm clicking on the sorting activity. And so I have my resources that I added here. If I want to learn more about these resources, I'll click on it. There's that information button that shows me the information about this resource, including the source of that resource. So that is how you ensure that the information about the resources you choose for your sorting activity are visible to any user, whether they're your students, other learners, regular users of the Learning Lab. If you decide at any point that you want to hide that, again, you can go back in and edit your sorting activity to prevent that. I hope that answered your question, Sierra. Let me know if I didn't. I'm happy to go back into the Learning Lab and dig around some more. So again, if you're just joining us, there is no real agenda for today. I'm just here to answer your questions, whether it's finding resources, kind of digging into how to use some of the tools of the Learning Lab like we did just now, or anything else. I would love to hear from you. I see Dale has joined us. I'm doing great today. Thank you, Dale. So if you'd like to enter a question in the chat, let me pull up the slide for you. So that chat box appears to either the right of your the video or beneath it, depending on the device and size of your screen that you're watching this on. I can see the chat on my end, and once you submit it, I'll do my best to answer it. I'm screen sharing the lab too, so I'm happy to walk you through any steps of using the lab that you're interested in, how to search for particular resources that you're interested in more. So again, enter your questions at any time, and I will do my best to answer them. While I wait for new questions to come in, I'm going to turn my camera off for a little bit, but I will still be here. So don't be afraid to type a question in the chat. Thank you. All right, hi. I see we have a new question from Stu. Let me pull it up on the screen here. Stu says, hi, we are a group from the Field Museum. We are curious what the most popular resource is. And I see, sorry, I'm in my office and forgot to turn down my ringer on my phone. But I was going to say, before I answer this question, I saw Mary just entered a question in the chat. No, I did not see your earlier question. See if you could resubmit it. That would be great. And I'll answer it next after Stu's. So the most popular resource in the Learning Lab, that is a great question. And there are quite a few that I think take that most popular or are in the most popular category. They range from ones that are kind of well-known, I would say, in American culture, to ones that are used often by teachers participating in programs at museums here around the DC and national area. So one of the most popular resources in the Learning Lab is the photograph Migrant Mother by Dorothea Lange, which is housed in the National Museum of American History. So to find that resource, I'm doing a search for the title here, Migrant Mother, and once this page loads, you'll see it. If you don't already know it by name, you'll definitely know it by image. Here we are. So this is something interesting to note about the Learning Lab. As you're looking at resources, in the upper left, underneath the title, if the resource is used in a collection, you'll see, in use in a published collection, I should say. So here I can see Migrant Mother has been used in 99 published collections, which is a ton. And if you'd like to see what those collections are, all I need to do is click, and those collections will pop up here for me. I can click on any to view it in detail. So if you're an educator, this is or really anybody, this is a wonderful way to see how others are using resources that you're interested in. So Migrant Mother is definitely one of the most popular. Another one of the most popular resources in the lab is one of my favorite portraits, which is Shimomura crossing the Delaware. And this is housed in the National Portrait Gallery. This portrait is used in 46 collections, and if you're interested in learning more about it, you can click on the information button to see or to learn more. And so this information will typically show you things like who created a resource, when it was created. But for this portrait in particular, we've got some great descriptive information here, which is very similar to the text that accompanies it in the gallery. So in summary, this is a self-portrait created by the artist Roger Shimomura. And here he's placing himself as George Washington in the, I believe it's Emanuel Leitz's painting Washington crossing the Delaware. So you can learn more about why he chose to do that by searching for this resource in the lab and checking out this information. And if you're curious on how you might use it in the classroom, how other educators are, again, click on this In 46 Collections button, and you can see some of the collections that have been created by other teachers, other museum educators, students even. So yeah, those are just some of the two most popular resources in the Learning Lab, but there are a lot. So if you're curious about more, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you for your questions, too. So yeah, Mary has a great question here. She asks, can you demonstrate how to create or repurpose a collection? For instance, a collection on Henry David Thoreau. I'm going to first demonstrate how to repurpose a collection. So that would be copying and adapting a collection someone else created. And then I'll demonstrate how to create a new collection. And I'll use Henry David Thoreau as an example for that. So let's let's do it this way. Okay, so say I'm looking at Shimamura crossing the Delaware. I've clicked on this in46 collections button to see other published collections that use this resource created by other users. And I want to click on one to see what another educator or another user on the lab has done. All right, so Laura Magno here has created a collection that analyzes another painting by Roger Shimamura as a way to understand Japanese American internment. So say this collection looks really interesting, but I want to adapt it. I want to add in some new stuff, maybe take some other stuff out. So first I'm going to want to copy this to my account. I'll click the copy collection button here. And I'm going to give it a new title. Then I'm clicking the copy collection button. And I've copied Laura's collection to my account. I don't lose the citation to Laura's original work, so if I click on the information button on my collection, which is the button you click while viewing any collection to view the full descriptive information about it, I can see that it is adapted from this original one. So something to know too, as you publish your own collections in the Learning Lab, as other users copy and adapt what you've created, you won't lose your original ownership on that either. So now that I've copied Laura's collection to my account, I can edit it however I like. So here I can go and make changes by clicking on Edit Collection. Here, again, I'm in edit mode, and I can tell I am because there's a green bar at the top of the screen. It'll tell me how long it's been since it auto-saved. It auto-saves every minute, but I can turn that off if I like. And then, like any other collection, I can adapt this. So I can change around the order of resources by hovering and clicking on the directional tool on the upper left of one of these resource thumbnails. I can delete a resource if I'd like. And I can add in new ones of my own, whether using the Add Resource button within the edit mode or by going back out to search and pulling new ones in. So using the copy collection tool to copy another user's collection to your account is a great way to adapt a collection that someone else has created, an activity that someone else has created. It's a great way to adapt it to better fit, say, a particular subject you're teaching, the age group where you're working with, and more. So real quick refresher on what I just did or how you would copy a collection to your own account. Going back to Laura's collection. To copy a collection to your own account, on the upper left or right hand side of the screen, I've got some buttons here. I'm going to click on the copy collection button, which appears like two squares overlapping. This will allow me to retitle this collection and copy it to my account to adapt however I like. So Mary, I hope that answered the first part of your question on how to create or repurpose a collection and redesign that classroom lesson. Let me know if not. I'm happy to go back in. But you also asked how to create a collection, and I can definitely use Henry David Thoreau as an example. So say I want to find some resources on Henry David Thoreau that might be a great starting point for a collection. To do that, I'll use the search bar in the upper left-hand side of the screen to type in my search term. I can use this to search for both resources, which are artwork, artifacts, articles, and more, or I can use it to search for collections. Trying to spell Thoreau. All right, so here are the resources that we have on Henry David Thoreau. As you search for resources in the Learning Lab, if you, depending on your search, sometimes you'll get a ton of search results, sometimes you get very few. If you'd like to refine your search results, you can do so by using the Refine Search tools. Right now my sidebar is open, but if you're in the lab and it's not, the option to open that sidebar is right here. Underneath the search bar, I'm clicking Refine Search. And here I have the ability to refine by resource type. So say, I just want to see images related to my search term. I can search by whether or not it's currently on exhibit, and I can search by resource provider. And Mary, I do see your second question too, and I'll go through that after this. Thank you. So I'm going to see what images we have. So I've selected image, and then I'm going to click Update Search. And I've shrunk my search results from 40 to 12, which is pretty good. So say I found this portrait of Henry David Thoreau from the National Portrait Gallery. If I click the information button, I can learn more about it. Looks like there's some great descriptive information here about the history behind this photograph in both English and Spanish. Just a side note, the National Portrait Gallery has done a great job of including bilingual descriptions in their resource information, so keep an eye out for that. So say I found this portrait, I really like it, and I want to use it to start a new Learning Lab collection. To do so, I'm going to click on this button here, right underneath the information button. It's got a bunch of rectangles on top of each other with a plus sign on top. This is the Add to Collection button. I can use it to either add it to an existing collection, or I can use it to create a new collection from scratch. So here, I'm going to click Create a Collection. I'm going to give this a title. I can go back and change it later. And I'm going to give it a TBD, to be decided description. And again, I can come back and change that later. Then I'm going to click the blue Create Collection button. And I've created a new collection. So to find my new collection, I'll go to the sun in the upper right. I'll click Collections on this right-hand column. This page will first show you all of your published collections, but if you'd like to see a new one that you just created, it'll be underneath My Unpublished Collections. And here's my new collection on Henry David Thoreau. So to continue adding resources to this collection, you'll keep using that Add to Collection button. I'm highlighting it again here for you. It'll appear on every resource you find in the lab. If any of you are interested in learning more about how to edit a collection, how to add some interactivity, I'd be happy to walk through that. But first, I'd like to show some ideas in response to another question we've received. I'll put it up on the screen. Mary asks if there is anything on introducing design thinking to help new teachers get started. There definitely are. There are some wonderful collections created by the Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum that I'd love to show you in particular. So to find Learning Lab collections related to design thinking, I'm going to use that search bar in the upper left-hand side of the screen again. I can use this not only to search for resources, but also to search for Learning Lab collections. So I'm going to type in design thinking here. Oop, but not here. All right, so I'm searching for design thinking. When I do this search, it'll show me first resources related to my search term. And I want to take a moment to pause here because there are quite a few resources on this page that I think will be really helpful in introducing design thinking. They are thinking routines developed by Harvard University's Project Zero. Uh, Specifically their Agency by Design program. They're right here at the top, and we have them in both English and Spanish. They're a series of simple questions to help students think about design in a variety of ways, through looking closely, through thinking critically, and coming to their own conclusions. They are so helpful, especially and work especially well with museum resources. So one of these thinking routines is parts, purposes, and complexities. Sorry about the bar at the top of the screen. It won't be there in 20 minutes. But so every Project Zero thinking routine that you find in the lab includes the main questions on the thumbnail here. In this case, parts, purposes, and complexities is a routine for looking closely and involves three main questions. What are its parts? What are its purposes? And what are its complexities? Really simple questions which help students dig into and think about why an object or a system are designed the way they are. To learn more about kind of the thinking behind these questions, types of resources it works particularly well with, alongside suggestions for using it with students, click on the Information tab. Here we've included information from Harvard University's Project Zero on exactly that. So why these questions work so well, what they work so well with, how you might incorporate it in your own classroom. These are treated like a regular type of resource, so I could pull it into a new collection if I want. So say maybe it does make sense for talking about Henry David Thoreau, so I could add it to that collection. And if I'm interested in seeing how others are using this thinking routine, I can click on In 22 Collections here to see other collections that it's used in. So that is one thing I would recommend for introducing design thinking, especially if it's something that you haven't used a lot before. These are honestly fantastic. So again, I found them by searching for design thinking in the Learning Lab. They're resources, and they will appear here at the top, both in English and in Spanish. But there are also multiple collections on design thinking, and I can find them by clicking on Learning Lab Collections right here. This will show me Learning Lab collections related to my search term. And like when I search for resources, I have options for refining my search on the left-hand side of the screen. So say I want to restrict my search to Learning Lab collections that are, just focused on social studies or math, the age range, the types of interactivity it holds. I'm searching in particular for some collections that were created by the Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum. So I am going to refine my search by the creator type. It's underneath collection type, and it is right here. So I'm going to filter by collections that were created by Smithsonian staff. Once I've selected that, I'm going back up to update search. And here we have quite a few from across the Smithsonian, so not just the Cooper Hewitt, but also the Freer-Sackler, which are Asian art museums, the Smithsonian Traveling Exhibition Service, but which one? There are so many good ones, and I'm trying to find one in particular. Let's take a step back. So this is one of them, prototyping. again created by the Cooper Hewitt. So this is an example of a collection to dig into how to prototype an object. If you'd like to see more collections created by the Cooper Hewitt, I'm going back out to their profile, and one moment, I'm looking. I think this is, they have so many wonderful collections and you really can't go wrong with any of them. This is the one that I wanted to show. So this is a fantastic collection that goes through helping students test their ideas for design in the classroom. It walks through different steps in the design process from bringing ideas to solutions, and includes an example from a design firm who focused on redesigning the wheelchair. So definitely check this collection out, Ideas to Solutions with the Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum. You can find it by searching for design thinking. You can find it by the Cooper Hewitt's profile page. Finally, we also feature design thinking collections on the home page. So if I go back to home, and then underneath create, because we're talking about collections here, on the Learning Labs homepage, we frequently, we switched it out. So we frequently feature exemplary collections on a variety of themes. We've recently refreshed this to include resources about National History Day, which I'd be happy to talk more about if you'd like. But we previously featured design thinking collections. You can still find them by searching for hashtag design thinking in the Learning Lab search, going back over to Learning Lab collections. And we've highlighted here some of our favorite collections that focus on design thinking. So I hope that was helpful. I know it was a long explanation, but we really do have a lot on design thinking that I think will be helpful. So if you have any follow-up questions on that, please feel free to ask. Looking at the chat here. All right, we have a question here. I'll pull it up. I would love to show my middle school band students' music composition collections from around the world. Are there archives that I can access to show these compositions or books? That is a great question. And I think it might take a little bit more thought, because there are. One way that you might search for them is searching. Let's see what happens when we search for music composition in the lab. So we do have some examples here. So if you're just joining us, I just did a search for a topic that I'm interested in, music composition. And when I do a search for the first time, it shows me resources related to my search term. And these resources are from across the Smithsonian. So here, it looks like I do have one resource that might be helpful. This is a resource in the Learning Lab, and let me take down the question so I can show you. So some resources in the Learning Lab have multiple images that I can flip through. So to do that, I'll click in the lower right. Here I can see now I'm at 2 of 16 resources. This might be helpful for you. There is an information button in the upper left that'll show you more information about it. This information varies from resource to resource. So sometimes or often you'll get information about who created this resource, in this case, who was the composer, when it was created, what Smithsonian museum holds it. Sometimes you also get descriptive information too that would accompany in the gallery, but we don't seem to have it here. It really varies from museum to museum. as well as how much we know about resources that we have. So that might be something that would help. We also have other compositions here, sheet music, but it looks like they are focuses on really interesting composition covers, the artwork that exists on there. I'll keep brainstorming. If you wouldn't mind sending an email with your question to our email, which I will put up on the screen. One moment. So if you wouldn't mind emailing your question, this is our main Smithsonian help email. It goes to not only me here at our office, but other educators here as well. I will keep thinking about where to find our resources that will help with this, because I know they're there. It's a tricky thing of figuring out what search terms relate to it. So again, send us an email. I'll keep thinking. I would love to help further. All right, so it looks like we have about 12 more minutes left in office hours today. If you are just joining us, I want to show there's no real agenda for today. I'm here really just to answer your questions on resources that you're looking for to teach a particular topic, on how to use particular features of the Learning Lab. You can share your questions using the chat box, which, depending on your device and screen size, will either appear to the right-hand side of the screen or underneath it. I'm watching the chat on my end, and when you send them through, I'll be able to answer them here using screen sharing. So again, if you have a question, submit it using the chat box. Ashley, who's a colleague in my office, has an answer or an idea that might help with finding resources on music composition. She says there are some great new collections that have been created that are tagged with Smithsonian music in the lab to celebrate the Smithsonian's Year of Music. That is absolutely right. Thank you, Ashley, for reminding me. Let me show you how to find those. So I'm back in the Learning Lab. To find collections tagged with Smithsonian music, I'm using the search bar at the top left to search for my search terms. So in this case, Smithsonian music. I'm hitting enter. And I'm looking for Learning Lab collections related to this hashtag. So I'm going to click this Learning Lab collections button here. We've got 32 collections here about Smithsonian music related to the Smithsonian's Year of Music that might be helpful. They are range from a variety of things, from focusing on particular musicians. It looks like we actually have a collection full of sheet music here from an educator who was previously at the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. So this collection, you can find it by searching for Smithsonian music. You can also find it by searching for sheet music. So we've got tons here. Looks like we have a little error that we're fixing right now. These will be back online soon, but yeah, definitely look at this. Thank you, Ashley. And there are plenty others here too that I highly recommend flipping through on a variety of topics. This one here is connected to National History Day. Doesn't focus on sheet music, but it does focus on labor movements, unions, and musicians. It's part of our National History Day series, which some of you may be involved in. It is a national research competition for students where students research a topic of their choice related to an annual theme, this year breaking barriers in history. And so there are tons of collections on the Learning Lab connected to this that gather resources to help students research topics of their choice, even brainstorm topics when they're still trying to decide. This is one of them. You can find more by searching for MHD on the lab. We've got 50 so far. I think about 10 of these that are specifically for breaking barriers, but more from previous years, which I think will still be very useful for finding resources to support this year's theme. All right. So if you have any other questions, we have about 8 minutes left. You can enter your question in the chat, appearing on the right or the bottom of your screen. I'm watching the chat on my end, and I'm happy to answer any questions up here as they come in. I can walk you through the lab, do my best to try find resources and collections to fit a topic that you're interested in. I can walk you through how to do something on the lab too. Say, if you want to know how to add quiz questions or an image hotspot to a collection, if you want a reminder again about how to create a sorting activity, I'm happy to help. So in these last few minutes we have together, I'm going to turn off my camera briefly, but I will still be watching the chat to see any questions as they come in. So don't hesitate to enter them. I'll be back soon. All right, everybody. As our office hours are coming to a close, I just wanted to thank you all for joining us today. We had some really great questions, and I hope I was helpful. This is one in a series of office hours that take place every Tuesday during the school year at 4 p.m. Eastern. You can find our schedule and links to future office hours via the Learning Labs homepage. Here, I'm going to go down to Learn on the left panel. And then here, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see Professional Development and Events. This is where our schedule of office hours will be. You can find the links to the upcoming YouTube videos here. But you can also learn more about other webinars that we're doing. We have a few coming up in the coming months, focusing on a variety of topics, including making learning visible with digital museum resources, and constructing curriculum with the Smithsonian, which is a webinar we're holding with the National Art Education Association. So again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week, next Tuesday, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.